Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into another episode. I am your host as always, Pauly DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today I will review Catwoman Vol.2. It was titled Dollhouse, and it was written by Judd Winick with art by Adriana Melo and Guillem March, with issues 7 to 12 being released between May and November of 2012. In Catwoman Volume 1, Selina Kyle's first adventure, she showed her many sides and skills, lost some allies while gaining others, began a small rogues gallery, and even got to share a bed with Batman before seriously freaking him out in not a good way. Issue number 7 kicks off with a rich Greek playboy being led to a specific parking garage, and while making innuendos about taking it slow when it counts, Catwoman steals his expensive car, and as she drives off, some unknown metahuman is watching her. Later that night, Selina visits her old friend slash new partner and fence, Gwendolyn Altamont, introduced in Volume 1, so they can discuss more business, plus Gwen gets in a mention about not being keen on any bat and cat foreplay. As this conversation ends, things jump to another character introduced in Volume 1, Gotham detective Carlos Alvarez, getting threatened by his corrupt Lieutenant Winston with demotion if he continues to look into Catwoman. And we also get an intro to the first original character from this volume, a female detective named Yolanda. The following scenes then give us a look at this story's main antagonist, a large, hooded individual that's going around kidnapping young hookers, homeless, and street kids. Seen here briefly, but to wrap things up, Catwoman has received another Grand Theft Auto tip from Chop Shop owner Mickey, except Gwen doesn't like the sound of it, except Selina doesn't care, jumping into action only to find out the whole thing was a setup at the hands of Alvarez. The sting goes down in the exact opposite way that Carlos had hoped for though, because suddenly the meta who was watching Catwoman earlier jumps down to reveal that he's got electricity powers and distracts the cops by lighting up their squad cars so Catwoman can escape with him and be told that he goes by Spark, alongside a request to work together stealing stuff. Issue number 8 begins with Catwoman and Spark cleverly breaking into a rich millionaire's mansion through the pool system so they can access the collection room. Yes, it was also most likely an excuse to get Catwoman drawn in a bikini, but let's be mature. The duo is there for the daggers of Aves, however the set of 5 has one missing, and before having barely enough time to grab the other 4, security personnel comes bursting in, pistols raised, and as they escape, Catwoman and Spark seem to be getting rather close. Over at Gwen's place, Selina knows that the Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot, has the missing dagger of interest, so they do some research on him, and if you were wondering who Mickey Spillane is, he was a crime novelist and pulp comic writer whose most popular creation is Tough P.I. Mike Hammer. A few nights later, Catwoman and Spark are doing Penguin recon while discussing trust. Do I really need to say the no honor among thieves line? Anyhow, Catwoman then suddenly notices some suspicious activity regarding a young girl, springing her into help, which brings her face to face, sorta, with her soon-to-be enemy, Dollhouse. That name isn't actually stated yet, but hooded person wasn't gonna do. And they promptly unload powerful pistols at Selina. Spark then leaps in to help as well, giving off a good jolt of electricity, forcing Dollhouse to run, but not before a grenade parting gift is left. And if it weren't for Spark here, Catwoman wouldn't have been able to help anybody. The girl would have been turned into mincemeat. Our duo then hit the shadier streets, questioning who they can, and find out that the string of kidnappings have been happening for weeks, with not a single thing being done. This is Gotham, so this is not worthy of a yikes. Number 9 consists of Catwoman's Night of the Owls tie-in, which I've covered already, but what's important here regards Selina and Spark getting ready to steal the 5th dagger of Ave's that's in Penguin's possession, but a Talon changes the plan, resulting in Oswald being saved by Catwoman and getting the reward of Mr. Cobblepot saying she's earned a favor from him. Number 10 opens on Detective Carlos Alvarez and Yolanda finding out that their co-workers Esther Mulrooney and Davis, all dirty cops from Volume 1, plus very dirty Lieutenant Winston, also from Volume 1, have taken any info they got on Catwoman and passed it on to someone else. Wait until the end of this issue to find out. But in the meantime, Catwoman has been trying to get a beat on Dollhouse and gets her first break when catching them in the middle of their next abduction, which is promptly interrupted. This only winds up starting a massive gunfight smack in the middle of the street though, and if it weren't for Spark arriving in a sports car, Catwoman again really wouldn't have been able to help and would have gotten torn apart by AK-47 rounds. Since Selina wasn't able to save the young boy, she demands on returning to the scene, but with Spark's objections, another layer to our main character is revealed as she yells about all these abductions being personal to her because she too was taken as a child. Which seems to turn Spark on due to pulling her in for their first kiss. Okay. Some very disturbing answers are given next as to what Dollhouse is doing with their victims. If you suspected illegal organ trade was a part of it, then you are correct, as seen when the latest subject has been fully operated on, with the final product being something rather similar to the House of Wax. But you know, with dolls here instead. Not much different. Still highly frightening. A day or two later, Selina is training hard while denying any work from Gwen, which she is not fond of, especially because of Miss Kyle's recent tries at heroics. So, what does our leading gal do next? Sneaks into Alvarez's apartment, catching him while he's chatting with Yolanda about Catwoman. Well, what do you know about that? As for the last pages, like I said earlier, the quartet of dirty cops from this series have teamed up with someone to take down Catwoman with the intel that they have on her, and it's, wait for it, Spark. Yeah, okay, that was kind of easy to guess because considering there were no other characters involved here, I get it. Number 11 continues on from the previous one, with Catwoman and Carlos having a brief scrap as he shows that his strength and reflexes are above the normal GCPD member. Also, him not realizing his pistol was empty immediately was BS. Plus, the guy just came inside from the street. Why don't you have a piece on you? Whatever. Things then get a little wet and wild. Literally, Catwoman deters any listeners in X-rated fashion as the fight concludes before asking Alvarez for help, which Spark has been observing the whole time. Over to Dollhouse's, Dollhouse. They are already behind on schedule. So many clients, so little organs. And after the recent hostage has committed suicide, this spells serious desperation time. Cutting to a fancy hotel suite that Selina likes to stay in, she's not there 2 minutes before discovering Spark is too, and instead of finding this suspicious, he's allowed to continue to get deeper in with her, metaphorically and physically. Their session is then halted by Carlos, of course having agreed to help Catwoman, and he's got locations for a dollhouse attack sussed out thanks to an info compilation she gave him. So, along with Spark, the three recon the areas until activity is noticed involving a hooded person, except all of them appear to be seeing the same thing. Our two criminals look to have been tricked with decoys, it appears, since Dollhouse somehow knew this was all coming, and it looks like the villain who's been called a he from this story's beginning is actually a she when her face is revealed and automatic tranquilizer weapons are produced in order to go full on Rambo, taking out and capturing over a dozen targets including Alvarez, which Catwoman realizes shortly after revving in on her motorcycle. Interesting how this vehicle of hers just shows up when it's needed, eh? Oh, and I can't forget, one last part included here was Gwen being stopped on the street by an unknown party and asked for a new business relationship. Who could it be? Number 12 concludes this book with Catwoman looking on at all the knocked out people that Dollhouse couldn't grab. However, the clever Carlos left a tracking device at the scene, which Selina realizes, so instead of Spark heading to her location, she asks him to go to the bat signal and replace it with a cat symbol. I'm fighting to not make a degenerate joke right now, but anyway, Batman obviously notices this quite quickly. How exactly did Spark even get up there to the roof of a law enforcement facility undetected? I don't know, and I don't care. Back over to the actual dollhouse, Alvarez is yelling at her about her insanity. Not the best card to play because he gets a dart to the neck, except the only hindrance about that is he cannot help Catwoman, who has tracked him down and pounces in for a final fight. Selina promptly finds out that Dollhouse is bizarrely strong though, hurling her across the residence like a rag doll. No way I wasn't getting that one in. As for the following scene, Catwoman is then treated to a truly unforgettable tour of the dollhouse while our big villain is revealed to be Matilda from Detective Comics Vol.1 minus the nurse attire. And if you were reading that series, you know that she is indeed a demented family minion to the doll maker, with her being the only one from that brood to make another appearance elsewhere. Anyhow, the end of this confrontation looks to be favoring Matilda until Carlos somehow wakes up rather briskly to assist Catwoman, and he's not alone because Batman crashes in with a Batmobile so they can rescue anyone from the burning house and then scratch their heads about how confusing the titular character is, while also wondering how she got away. Which is not seen here. Instead, there's just her taking a bath on the next page. The woman had 4 tranq darts in her back. I would truly like to know her escape plan. In the last pages, Spark then arrives to see who he thinks is Selina inside of a warehouse, but then a gun gets pulled on him with Gwen revealing herself, saying she knows he's working for the dirty cops out to get Catwoman, and this spells his demise with a bullet to the head. Okay, Miss Altamont, okay, we see you. She then makes a call to the one and only Penguin to thank him for the intel from issue number 11, except she now owes him a favor in return. Alright. I'm gonna begin with the plot this time, and the writing knows exactly what it's supposed to be. Catwoman is by no means a hero showcased in her learning. It's a lot harder to do good than bad, but things remain tantalizing in other aspects, with Selina being complex and conflicted. Spark was a good addition to the story since it's rare for a clean open and shut arc for most side characters, while Dollhouse had me unsure how I felt regarding the recurring of her and going nowhere from here. Moving over to dialogue quick, I personally liked it. Gwen, Carlos, Spark, and Matilda all had their own thing going on, while Selina balanced the snappy and silly to serious and strategic extremely well. Down to the art now, it's hot, it's garish, the textures and ambiance captures the title's tone just right, with some of my favorite parts being the renditions of Nighttime and Catwoman's first fight with Matilda in front of the Love Shop. And every character has a good look going for them. There was just something about the haunting content coupled with a female antihero that made it feel different to all the other Bat Family titles. That will wrap up this review for today, and if you've watched until the end here, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Red Hood and the Outlaws Volume 2.